Mega bag alert, mega bag alert, mega bag alert, folks. That's right. It's been a while. I know it's been a while. It's been a week, but it feels like it's been longer. But we got a lot to talk about, okay? Between the first week of football till now, there's going to be a lot of things we have to catch up on. So that means, guess what? More episodes that's going to have to be made this week. So we have a lot to talk about, okay? Noah Gray gets paid. Jalen Ramsey gets paid. Pat Freiermuth gets paid. Spencer Brown gets paid. DAK resets the market. Harrison Phillips gets an extension. Colorado in the Nebraska game, the Chiefs and the Ravens game, the Eagles and the Packers game, and Tua gets another concussion. We have so much stuff to talk about that there's no point in even doing an intro, but we're still going to do the intro anyway, because why? We need the intro, and without the intro, none of this really goes the way that it's supposed to go, okay? So we got a lot to talk about. I would not be surprised if this episode crosses over to an hour. I would not be surprised, but hey, who knows? All right, who knows? All right, I know it's been a while. I know we haven't really talked about a whole lot, but I decided we gotta do everything at one time. So for the next few days, we're gonna be playing catch up, and let's see how quick can we catch up and get prepared for next week's matchups and whatnot. So all of this and more, okay, on the 33rd episode. Okay, yeah, I know it feels, man, I feel rusty. I feel like I'm out of it. I feel like it's been a while, but you know what? It's all right. We're going to get back into the groove of things, okay? I miss you guys. I know you guys miss me. It's all that good stuff and more, okay? All of this and more on the 33rd episode of the Football Junkies podcast. I am your host, your GM, okay, who was away looking and giving advice and scouting, going from the West Coast to the Midwest to the East Coast to down south to up north, here, there, everywhere. Went to Washington State, got me a hot dog, didn't like it. Went to Texas, got me some brisket, gave me some food poisoning. Went to Florida, left the game a little bit early because that game sucked. But guess what? We landed back here in Pennsylvania. Got ourselves a good cheesesteak and we're good to go. So you know what? You already know what I'm getting ready to say. Okay, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that has happened from the first week up until the end of this week. It's a lot to talk about, so let's just go into it, okay? Noah Gray, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, inked a 3-year, $18 million deal. He gets a $6 million signing bonus, $10 million fully guaranteed at signing. He'll be making $6 million a year, according to Adam Schefter. Now, when we look at his stats for 2023, 41 targets for 28 receptions, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 10.9 yards a play. Yeah, it's definitely been a while. It's definitely the coffee. He had a 68.3 catch rate percentage, which is actually pretty good. 141s and I can't even speak, and 141 yards after the catch, according to NFL Pro. Now, when we look at this here, folks, it's not necessarily, an earth-shattering deal where it's like, oh, what are the Chiefs going to do and whatnot. This is making sure that they take care of a player that plays somewhat of a pivotal role on the Chiefs offense, okay? Aside from Travis Kelce, they have to have somebody else that's going to be productive as well. And, Noah Gray has been productive. He's not necessarily been, this ultra super productive person, but, when he gets the ball, he does make plays and it shows. So his stats, not necessarily, speaks, oh, this is a legendary player or anything like that. No, it doesn't do any of those things. But what it does say is that, the team values him and that they were going to make sure that they were going to lock him up. And so in doing so, they did it. And, honestly, it's a great situation. It's a team-friendly deal. It's not that bad of a deal. It's not something where, they're going to have to restructure it, in 2 years or whatever. Like, it's a really good team friendly deal. He gets paid. The teams keep, the Chiefs keep, one of their, functional pivotal players. And, it's a win-win situation altogether. Now, when we look at the other player that got a bag alert as well, we sort of have to. I don't really understand it, but I guess we have to talk about it. So, Jalen Ramsey inked a 3-year, $72.3 million extension to stay with the Dolphins. Okay, he gets $24.3 million guaranteed at signing, as well as in total guarantees. He will be making $24.1 million a year, which technically makes him the highest paid corner in the league. Now, when we look at his stats, okay, he was targeted 37 times, okay, only allowed 22 receptions for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had 3 picks. Now, when we look at this extension here, I don't understand why necessarily they would give him such a big extension, honestly, but I guess maybe it's to try to, keep him, but at the same time realize that that his market is still relatively high, and he is still, he is still somewhat of an elite corner, I guess. But I mean, when we look at it here, he doesn't really, the extension really doesn't start to kick in until 2 years from now, right? In both 2026 and 2027, he'll be making $10 million a year, and his cap hit for both of those years would be $25 million and $26.8 million, for 2027. His last year is when his base salary sort of, jumps a little bit more, okay? $21 million is what will be his base salary, and his cap hit will be $36 million. I can guarantee you that there's 9 times out of 10 this deal is going to be restructured again, and they're probably going to push a majority of that money that would have been on the back end of the deal and probably maybe push it back up, maybe convert it into a signing bonus, maybe do something a little bit different, okay? Because, again, I don't think the Dolphins are going to let him just go all the way through this extension. I just don't. At some point, either he wants to be in a better situation, or they're going to be put into somewhat of a, I want to say a rock and a hard place, but in a difficult situation where they may have to let a veteran person like him go, or trade him, or whatever the case may be, right? So again, I just don't. I'm sort of a little questioned by it, but I guess I guess they just wanted to keep him. I guess I don't know. Now on to Pat Freiermuth, okay, Moof, as we call him, okay. Inked a 4-year, $48 million deal with the Steelers. Okay, he gets a $10.5 million signing bonus, $11.6 million guaranteed at signing, as well as in total guarantees, and he will be making $12.1 million a year. Okay, now when we look at his stats, okay, 47 targets for 32 receptions for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 9.6 receiving yards per reception, a 68.1 catch rate, and 147 yards after the catch, according to NFL Pro. Now, when we look at this, okay, Pat Freiermuth is definitely one of those tight ends. Well, it's definitely one of those young players that is starting to get a lot more popularity and whatnot, and he is a really good player, okay, because if we're being real here, the only reason why that the Steelers drafted Pat Freiermuth was because Eric Ebron was not living up to the extension that the Steelers gave him, right? Because remember, the Steelers got Eric Ebron in free agency, and they were thinking they were going to get the same Eric Ebron that the Colts and everybody else got. But once he came to Pittsburgh, it was a whole different ball game, okay? He could barely stay on the field. He was very inconsistent. He looked like he was having a big drop problem. He just was not the same player that he once was. And, the Steelers were in a situation where they needed, a productive tight end. And, leading up to that draft class, the running question was, were the Steelers going to draft Creed Humphrey or Pat Freiermuth? And eventually they drafted Pat Freiermuth. The Chiefs, drafted Creed Humphrey, and the rest is history. Now, not to say that, drafting Pat Freiermuth was a bad move. No, he's been their most productive tight end, I would say, probably since maybe Jesse James or Vance McDonald, maybe, possibly. That says a lot, right? And granted, it's no disrespect to Eric Ebron or anything like that, but bro, they paid you the money that they paid you because they thought that you were going to be the guy, and you wasn't the guy. And it showed, and then in doing so, they had to go in a different direction. And, here we are at this point. Now, when we look at this deal is not it's a really good deal, honestly speaking. It really is. Omar Khan, once again, is doing con artist things, okay? Because next year, his base salary is only $10.7 million. And then after that, it's only 7.6, 8.5, and 6.9. Those aren't really bad numbers. Those are really good numbers. This is a deal where, honestly speaking, if you get into a situation where you need to, he wants to be put in a different situation, or you need to, do a restructure, or you just need to cut him, whatever the case may be, right? It's a very easy deal to deal with, okay? Even with his cap hits. His cap hit next year, 12.8. The year after that, 11.2. The year after that, 12.1. And then his final year, 10.4 million. That's very manageable. Very manageable. Very easy to deal with, okay? And, this is, how am I going to say this? Pat Freiermuth, to me, feels like he's going to be a 2-contract type player. I do believe that. I do think that he does have the skill set to probably re-up and get another deal, just because he plays such a pivotal role on this offense. And the Steelers have, in recent years since Heath Miller, have started to value the tight end position a whole lot more. So, I mean, you might as well want to lock in somebody like a Pat Freiermuth up basically for the rest of his career, honestly speaking. I'm just saying, not to mention it's somewhat of an insurance policy as well, just in case if things go left. So all in all, it's a win-win situation. Now, on to Spencer Brown, okay, right tackle for the Bills. He inked a 4-year, $72 million deal to stay with them. He gets a $6.4 million signing bonus, $19.8 million guaranteed at signing, as well as in total guarantees, and he'll be making $18 million a year. Now, when we look at this here, folks, the Bills recently have been investing more into their offensive line because they've been wanting to protect I'm drawing a blank here. They wanted to protect Josh Allen more, right? So he doesn't take all these hits that he's been taking, as well as, do all these outrageous plays that he has to do in order to extend the play or to score a touchdown or whatever the case may be, right? And, Spencer Brown has been a really productive, tackle, right? They locked up both of their tackles, Deion Dawkins and now Spencer Brown. So all in all, it's a great signing. It's a great situation for them. Even when they drafted what's his name? Osiris Torrance. Those are really good pickups. They low key, they have a really good offensive line. I like their offensive line unit, okay? And Spencer Brown has definitely been a really productive right tackle for them. And then even when you look at, the structure of his deal, the structure of his deal is somewhat backloaded. The last 2 years is when he's going to be, is when you're really going to see that spike in his base salary going up, as well as his cap hits, right? Because the last 2 years, he will be making $14.7 million for his base salary, as well as $16.8 million for his last year, right? And then even with the cap hits for I can't even speak. I'm so excited. I miss you guys so much. I really did. I really did miss you guys so much. I really miss doing this. When we look at it, right, in 2026, his cap hit 19.4, 2027, 19.9, and then 2028, 22.1. Now, I can guarantee you, like I've been saying for the other players as well, this doesn't mean that, this contract is set in stone. Everybody's contract at some point goes through a restructure, and, money is moved around in different in different areas and whatnot, and maybe is given to them in a signing bonus or converted or whatever the case may be, right? Just to create cap space or to be able to go after somebody. Just things happen, right? And so Spencer Brown has definitely been an anchor on that right side. He continues to be consistent, and the Bills rewarded him for it by giving him an extension. And it's a great situation. It is. It's a great situation. This right here shows you that this team is one committed to trying their best to protect Josh Allen while at the same time making sure that they invest into the offensive line as best as possible. Now, on to the controversial bag alert. Yes, I'm saying it's controversial because of what happened yesterday. Okay, Dak Prescott did it. I called it. Yes, I said it. I called it. I said it. I called it. I said it. I told you he was going to hit 60 million, and guess what he did? He did it. 60 million on the dot. 4 years, 240 million. Okay, at $80 million signing bonus, 129 million guaranteed at signing, 231 million in total guarantees, and he's making 60 million a year. Okay. Now, when we look at his stats, okay, 410 completions out of 590 attempts, 4,516 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 picks, 105.9 passer rating. He averaged 7.7 yards per attempt, and he had a completion percentage of 69.5. Now, this is what I will say about this whole debacle, right? And I'm just going to be completely honest here. I think this was probably a really bad signing. I do. I truly believe that, and I will stand on this. This is just my perception as a former GM and all these various different things, right? The quarterback should not be the highest paid on the team. He should not be the highest paid. Yes, he should be taken care of financially, but he should not be, top 5 or top 10 when it comes to his position market. Because when you do that, it literally puts a chokehold on what the team can do from a building standpoint. They won't be able to go after the star player in free agency. Instead, they're going to have to go after this veteran who you don't know if he still has it or not, right? And it shows, because when you look at some of the highest paid quarterbacks right now, a lot of them are not winning. A lot of them have not been to a Super Bowl. A lot of them have not won an MVP. A lot of them have not really shown a whole lot to say, okay, we should be able to give you that type of money. Look at it. Joe Burrow has not been the same. He has not been the same Joe Burrow since that Super Bowl year. He has actually regressed, if we're being real here. He has regressed, and yes, I understand injuries have definitely played a part, but you can see that he has regressed. He is not the same player. He is not good. But when everybody talks about Joe Burrow, talk about him all high and mighty. But when it's people like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, they're holding their feet to the fire with every little decision that they do, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent, right? And Dak Prescott, I understand, yes, the Cowboys wanted to keep, Dak because he's definitely been their best quarterback, in recent years and whatnot. I get all of that. But at some point, you have to draw the line in the sand. You have to. Because 60 million a year? I'm sorry. I wouldn't even give. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give 60 million to a quarterback that doesn't have a ring, doesn't have an MVP, doesn't have an offensive player of the year, let alone has even been to an NFC championship game. I'm not doing it under any circumstances. I don't care what record you've broken. I don't care how many touchdowns you throw. I don't care if you have a perfect season where you don't throw not one interception. I don't care. I'm not going to give you 60 million, because the minute I give you 60 million, guess what that means? That means another player on this team is going to have to be sacrificed, and we won't be able to take care of them. Because why? You want all of your money. And granted, I understand that he was going to get his money, whether it was going to be with the Cowboys or anybody else. I get all of that. But at the same time, if I'm Jerry Jones, I have to think about the future. If I'm really trying to win, I have to think about the future. Because I done gave all this money to CeeDee Lamb. I done gave all this money to Dak Prescott. And I still have to figure out what I'm going to do with the offensive line. I still have to figure out what I'm going to do with Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is that's not going to be a cheap deal as well. That's going to be someone that he could potentially reset the market too if he wins the Defensive Player of the Year award and has a crazier season than what he's had the last 2 years. So you have to factor in all these different types of things. Yes, I understand the Cowboys value their stars and they take care of their stars very well. But at the same time, there comes a time and point where you just have to say, okay, you know what? Maybe we need to go in a different direction and maybe try to see if we can get some production from somebody else for a little bit cheaper and maybe see what happens. Compared to resetting the market for Dak Prescott. Like, this is a really bad deal. This is a bad deal through and through, okay? Because after this year, his base salary for the next 3 years, 47.7, 40 million, 45 million, right? Cap hits. His cap hit next year will be 89.8 million. I'm going to say that again a little bit closer on the mic so you can hear what I just said. His cap hit is going to be $89.8 million for a person who has not won a Super Bowl, an MVP, an Offensive Player of the Year, let alone has even made it to the NFC Championship. I want you to think about that for a second. Think about that. Someone who has not won any major accolade just reset the market. We have seen the recipe. And every time a quarterback resets the market, what happens? The team is not able to continue to build, let alone continue to be competitive. They're going to have to get rid of another top end productive player because they won't be able to pay them, as well as there will start to be a decline. Trevor Lawrence, since he's gotten his deal, what has he done? Nothing. Dak Prescott. The Cowboys literally just got smoked yesterday. Smoked, hibachied, grilled, baked, fried, seared, pan-seared, reverse seared. All of those different ways that you can cook something, okay? They got cooked to perfect. It looked like Gordon Ramsay put on a show, okay? He cooked for every single Dallas Cowboys fan, okay? That's how bad it was. And you mean to tell me you paid this fool $60 million a year? No. Jerry, most of the times I would agree with you on certain things, but this is the one deal where it's just like, yo, this is not a good deal. And it's not going to age well. And you want to know the sweetest thing of this all? Guess what? They can't trade him because he has a no trade clause. So he get to dictate wherever he wants to go to if he wants to be traded. Now think about that for a second here, folks. Now, granted, I understand a lot of quarterbacks, they have that clause in their contract, but you gave him all this money. You're unable to move him unless he wants to be moved and where he wants to go to. So all in all, unless you guys are about to win the Super Bowl this year and whatnot, this is a bad deal. This is a horrible deal. This is going to go down in history. It's definitely one of the worst deals in NFL history. You heard it here first. Now, on to a more serious matter. Well, actually, you know what? No. We're gonna save that. We're gonna save that for last. Okay, we're gonna continue on with these back alerts. So, Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle for the Vikings, inked a 2-year, $15 million extension with them. He gets a $5 million signing bonus, $13 million guaranteed at signing, as well as in total guarantees, and he'll be making $7.5 million a year. Now, when we look at his stats, 2 pass deflections, 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss. All in all, this is just they just want to lock up a player that they value very much, especially on that defensive line. And, he's definitely he's not a player where his stats are going to woo you and whatnot, but he is a player where if you don't need to worry about him doing his job. He's going to do his job. He's going to try to stop the run. He's going to be a good run stuffer, all those different things and more. Okay, it's not something where it's like, oh, they did it to the wrong person. They gave him the wrong. No. It's a basic extension. They just want to lock up a player that they value. That's it. Okay, that's it. That's all. Cool. Now, I wonder, should we continue to do? Well, you know what? Yeah. We'll save college football for last. I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to save college football for last. Now, and you know what? You know what? That's exactly what I'll do. Let's talk about Tua, okay? Because there's going to be other things, other football things we're going to have to talk about. Let's talk about Tua now. For those of you who do not know, Tua suffered another concussion this past Thursday against the Bills. Now, this is what I will say, and I'm going to be completely honest here. As someone who has had a concussion himself, concussions are not fun. Okay, I don't care what anyone says. Concussions are not fun at all. They are not something to be played with, especially, in this time and day of age. We have seen in various documentaries and films the effects of what happens when a player has had multiple head injuries. Okay, we have seen it. And I'm not going to be the person that's going to say, "Oh, Tua should retire, this, that, and the other," blah blah blah. But I think the first thing that I think needs to be discussed before we can bring up the retirement, talk and whatnot. I think he really needs to see a neurologist, and he needs to see a concussion doctor. I think he needs to go under some tests. He needs to see exactly to what extent does he have CTE, and exactly is his brain still operating at a normal level and whatnot. All those different things, because you may not see it now, but there is a chance that it may come up later on down the road, because we've seen it with a lot of former players now. They were fine when they were playing, but then later on down the road, that's when you start to see a lot of their symptoms, come back and haunt them. And you don't want that for Tua. You do not want that. And, it's a situation where, if I'm the Dolphins front office and especially ownership, I'm telling, Mike McDaniel, listen, we're going to sit Tua down for a little bit. Forget about the games. We're going to sit him down. We need to figure out exactly what is the contingency plan for Tua moving forward, because I understand he took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes. I understand they taught him how to, fall and all those different types of things. But guess what? Let me tell you something. No matter what you do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, Jutsu, Wuchu Jutsu, whatever, it's not going to stop you from having a concussion, okay? It is not. And every single time that he's had a concussion, you can see that like his hands lock up and everything. That is not a good sign. That's not a good sign. That's not something that you play with, okay? And if you're the Dolphins, you just invest a lot of money into Tua. And so now you have to figure out exactly what are you going to do moving forward, because again, he can't continue to have all of these concussions. At some point, the line has to be drawn in the sand. We have seen players that have had to retire early because of them suffering multiple concussions. Case in point, Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly was a really good linebacker. At one point, great. Really, really great, okay? But here was the one thing that basically derailed it. He kept on having concussions. And he said, you know what, at this point, I done did everything I probably could do. It's just time for me to walk away. That's just what it is, because you continuing to try to play is not going to do anything. It's just not. Now when every single time you're on the field, you're being, carted away or being put in concussion protocol, that's not good. That's not good at all. And so if I'm Tua, I'm thinking things over. All options are on the table at this point. And, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm a little bit concerned, because now you basically are going to have to hope that he hasn't suffered any major brain injuries. So, because you've tied in a lot of money with him. And even then, even if he was to retire, if I'm not mistaken, there may be different clauses in his contract and whatnot. Give him his guaranteed money. That's over, I think, $100-some million in guarantees. So, I mean, that's there's so many different implications with this situation that it's not something that's just simple. Like a broken leg, you can bounce back from a broken leg. You can bounce back from a torn ACL or torn Achilles and whatnot. When it comes to those head injuries, that is permanent. That is not going to go away. That is not something that, you take a pill and it's gone, or you put some cream on and it's gone, or if you take this therapy, it's gone. No, those things stay with you for the rest of your life, and you do not want that. And even then, when we look at it, the way that he got this latest concussion, in some ways, it wasn't the defender's fault. He tucked his head in I guess he was trying to truck DeMar Hamlin or something. I don't know. But the way that he put his head down, you can see the impact, right? You can see the impact. And once you see that impact, you can see, oh, he's out. He is out cold. And it's not like I don't want people to say, well, DeMar Hamlin, was trying to deliver a nasty hit. No, he wasn't. He was actually trying to stop him. He wasn't trying to go low and hit him or anything like that. He was just trying to stop him. If Tua would have tucked his head a little bit more downward, and if he would have angled his body a little bit more, 2 or 3 degrees more, he would have had a broken neck. He would have broken his neck. That is how significant his head was tucked in. And granted, all the coaches nowadays, they teach their quarterbacks slide. Slide. That's the one thing that they all teach. They even have sliding drills, right? And not to get off on another tangent, that was one of the things that derailed RG3's career. Because why? He didn't want to slide. He did not want to slide. And he thought that he would be able to escape everybody and do all those different types of things. And guess what? It costed his career. They had baseball players coming in to teach RG3 how to slide. He didn't want to do it. And guess what? It costed his career. So if I'm the Dolphins, after the amount of money that I just gave to Tagovailoa this offseason, I am making sure he sees the best of the best doctors. I don't care how much money it costs. I don't care. Put it on their tab. Because you need to make sure, you need to know that Tua is A-OK and he can continue to play. While at the same time, come up with a plan and figure out, okay, maybe we're going to have to go and get another quarterback next offseason and, figure something else out. That's what they're going to have to do, okay? Because guess what? I don't care if you build him the greatest offensive line in NFL history. I don't care if from Teron Armstead to all the way to the right side, it's full of first rounder, all pros. You could get the best offensive lineman in every single position and put them on the line for Tua. It will still not stop him from getting a concussion. It won't. And at some point, you have to value your life after football and not your life in football. That's a bar right there. I like that. I might keep that one. But back to this. You have to focus on your health. Because if you don't, you're going to mess yourself up. We have seen images of what happens when a player suffers a lot of traumatic brain blows. We've seen it. It does not end well for nobody. Okay. Now, moving on to more upbeat type of things. Better yet, yeah, you know what? Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's definitely talk about it. I'm sorry, Mook. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to do it. Sorry, Ravens fans. We're going to have to talk about the Ravens and Chiefs, okay? Now, this is what I will say, okay? I'm just going to be completely honest here. I feel like the refs were very ticky-tacky with their calls. I feel like they were favoring more the Chiefs than the Ravens because I felt like they kept on calling the same call every single time on the Ravens and the way that their offensive linemen were lined up. When you look at the replay, you can see that Ronnie Stanley is not breaking any of the rules. So then why in the world did you keep on calling a penalty on him? But you didn't call all the times that Jawan Taylor kept on getting off, super early, or he was holding, or any of those things, right? And this has literally been happening since last season. Since last season, there's multiple, almost every single game, he is getting off well before anybody else, well before the ball is even hiked to Patrick Mahomes' hands. Right? There's even times where he's deliberately holding and nobody calls it. Everyone's just turning a blind eye. Why is that? I don't know. But but this is what I will say. The Ravens were very reserved when it came to their play calling. You have Derrick Henry. You have someone who it's going to take him a while to get in his stride. And the only way that you do that is you got to feed him. You got to feed the rock to him. That's the only way that this is going to work. And it can't work when in the first half you want to give him the ball and in the second half you barely want to give him the ball at all. You can't. He's going to get his. I don't care what anyone says. Derrick Henry is big enough, strong enough, and he is still a problem for a lot of defenses. Okay? He is going to get his. He is. Now, he may not be able to get a first down every single time he gets the ball. He may not be able to go and score a touchdown every single time, but he is going to wear down on a defense. That is why you get someone like a Derrick Henry. And for them not to be using him the way that he should be used at this point is a little bit concerning. Very concerning, actually. Because if you weren't going to use him the way that he wants to be used and should be used, then you should have never tried to go after him, honestly speaking here. Okay? What's another thing that definitely stuck out? Rosengarten going up against Chris Jones one-on-one. No help. Like, I understand he's a rookie. He has to go through these, he has to go through everything and whatnot when it comes to being a tackle in the National Football League. But dang, can you give him a little bit of help? You got to put somebody on that side just to help him. You're going up against Chris Jones. This isn't just some normal, little pass rusher that, got one or two moves. You're talking about an all-pro Super Bowl champion, potential Hall of Fame defensive lineman in Chris Jones, and you're having him to go one-on-one against a rookie right tackle. Why would you do that and you don't give him any help, right? That is just the most damnedest thing in the world, and I will never be able to understand it. But again, this is the Ravens that we are talking about, and I think this opens up for a bigger conversation that probably needs to be had, which is, when we look at last year and we look at that offense was putting up numbers, okay? It was putting up big numbers. They were driving down the field. They were stretching the field. They were doing all those things. They were passing. Everybody was basically eating off of that offense last year. Why have we not seen just a glimpse of that this year? You cannot be reserved, especially when you're going up against the Chiefs. You can't. I understand it's the first week and you don't want to show everything in your bag, but you might have to just to beat them because it's the Chiefs. This is a game where not only does it send a message to them and everybody else that, hey, we want ours. Okay, last year we were supposed to go to the championship. We screwed that up. So guess what? We coming back this year a little bit stronger. We coming back with y'all a little bit more intensity, a little bit more physicality and whatnot. But you didn't. And you allow Patrick Mahomes to once again do the things that Patrick Mahomes does. And it shows. It shows. Even, and you know what? We have to talk about it. The toe. Yes, that's going to be the name of this title. Toe. Toe. Because let's be real here. That definitely could have been called a touchdown. It definitely could have been called a touchdown. And it doesn't help that Patrick Mahomes, after the game, is basically saying, "Oh, well, you should have worn white cleats." Come on, man. Come on, dude. Like, really? You're corny right now. You're being really corny right now. But best believe, if Travis Kelce would have done that, if Rashee Rice would have done that, if anybody else on that team would have done that, automatically 100% a touchdown. And I'm not trying to come off as a Ravens fan and whatnot, but what I do not like is games where they are very ticky-tacky when it comes to their when it comes to I can't even speak because I'm so irritated because of the bad refereeing. You can't do that. You have to call it down the middle. You cannot just favor one team over the other. And it showed. There were a lot of times where the Ravens were being called for a lot of ticky-tack things, and the Chiefs were able to get away scot-free and continue to just do whatever they want. And that is unacceptable. Now, when we look at for the Ravens, though, this is going to bite them in the butt when it comes to, when it comes down to the seeding process and everything for the playoffs, because you lost to an AFC team. If this is an NFC team, I'm not really concerned about because it's an NFC team, right? But you should want to try to win you should want to try to win your games, within the AFC, because that's going to have an effect, when it comes to the playoffs. You may not feel it right now, but when it comes to that seeding, that can be the difference between you going up against a super hot team right now that is, that's going to give you some problems, or a team that, just got in because of a technicality or, something, something crazy happened or whatever the case may be, right? That is the difference. That is the difference between you getting a first round bye and you having to basically fight all the way to the Super Bowl. That's what it is. Even with them losing to the Raiders yesterday. Yes, I'm going to talk about that in the next episode as well. I'm just going to say that. Not going to go anything further, but Ravens fans, I understand you guys are very upset. You have every right to be very upset because this team is ready to win right now. Okay, the pieces are in place to win right now. And you cannot continue to play reserved, especially when you're going up a team like the Chiefs. You know that 9 times out of 10, they are going to come out guns blazing and they're going to give you different looks than what you have seen on tape. And so you have to be prepared for it. And if you're not going to be prepared for it, as well as the ticky-tack ref calls that they're going to be doing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose. You're going to lose. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Now, moving on to the other game that definitely needs to be talked about, the Packers and the Eagles game. I just don't understand why the league continues to do these games. I just don't. Me personally as a fan, I just do not like them. I don't. I feel like they are very unnecessary. It'll be different if you're doing them in Europe. Okay, cool. You have a pretty good following in Europe, but you really don't. I mean, when have we done anything in Brazil, right? The field was atrocious, very much atrocious. It was just I don't know. I get it as a marketer with, and I'm trying to think with a marketing mindset. They're trying to do what the NBA did back in the 90s, which is expand the reach of the sport. But I guess the way that they're doing it is a little bit off and a little bit, kelter, if that's a word. And it's just not players really don't like it, because that's a 10 plus hour flight that you're going to have to make. You can't go out anywhere because of how, because of the favelas and, the gang activity and all those different type of stuff. The field is atrocious. People were slipping and sliding everywhere. Like it was just horrible. Just absolutely horrible. Now, these are just a few notes that I definitely jotted down and definitely caught my eye, especially through NFL Pro as well. So in this offense so far, their offensive coordinator, if you guys do not know, is Kellen Moore. The Eagles used motion on 48 of 73 plays, which was the highest since 2020, okay? Jalen Hurts' strength so far was the intermediate and short passing game, but was very inconsistent in the deep ball game. That could be for, because of the different coverages that the Packers were playing, as well as, just it. I just feel like both teams were not really they really weren't. They were just trying to get the game over with. I don't think they really was trying to go all out, if that makes sense. In the 24 carries that Saquon Barkley had, he generated 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs was 16 attempts for 84 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry, which is good, but it definitely could have been a little bit more. I think the Packers wanted to rely on him more, but I think they were in a situation where they were trying to put points on the board, and so they just had to, go and rely on their receivers and Jordan Love. Speaking of Jordan Love was 17 completions out of 34 attempts, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He averaged 7.6 yards per attempt and had a 50% completion percentage. The only reason why his numbers are the way that they are is because he got hurt during the game and basically he was declared out, and that is why he's not playing for a little bit. Now, when we look at Jalen Hurts had 20 completions out of 34 attempts, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He averaged 8.2 yards per attempt and had a 58.8 completion percentage. Now, they were having a little bit of a fumbling problem between him and the center, but I mean that's probably gonna mature over time, just because he's filling the shoes of Jason Kelce. So it's like, the way that the way that Jason Kelce used to hike the ball is different from what they have now. So a little bit of not necessarily a problem, but just something that will definitely grow over time. But all in all, the Eagles come away with a victory. It was an okay game. Nothing really like super crazy and whatnot. I want to see more. I definitely want to see more from this Eagles offense. I really do. I feel like them getting Kellen Moore may be actually a good signing and maybe what they need. I just want to see how is this going to affect the deep threats, as well as the deep passing that Jalen Hurts is going to have to do, because you're going to have to feed AJ Brown. You're going to have to do that. So I just want to see how everybody's going to be utilized as the season progresses. Now let's switch over to college football. Yes, college football. Yes, there's gonna be, I'm letting you guys know now, there's gonna be some episodes where it's gonna be strictly just college football. So giving you a heads up right now, I'll continue to remind you moving forward, but that's just where we are. Okay, so let's talk about this Colorado and Nebraska game. So it was a disaster. let's just put it like that. It was a disaster. You could definitely tell that Nebraska, definitely had a game plan, stuck to that game plan, and they were just they were playing crazy. They were getting through. That defense was getting through a lot of times and creating a lot of pressure, and Shedeur was not being able to play. Now, granted, this is what I will say about Colorado. Colorado makes a lot of noise. They're loud. In this situation right now, even though they won against Colorado State this weekend, I think it would be best for them to just quiet it down just a little bit. Because when you're on a high, right? When they're winning and they're on their highs, they're on their high. Oh, they're talking, they're doing this and that and performances and all these different types of things. But when they're losing, they look like they done ate a whole lemon. And now they got the sour mouth and whatnot. It's not a good feeling. I get all that, but they just have to tamper things down a little bit. They do, and they have to focus on the game. They have to focus on winning, okay? Because when you're winning, you have leverage. You're able to do certain things. But when you're losing, no. Having all those celebrities on the sidelines and all those different types of things, sure, you can do those things when you're winning, but you cannot do that when 1 minute you're winning, then you're losing, you're losing, then you're winning, and all those different types of things. And granted, I understand that Deion, they landed the 5-star prospect, the left tackle and whatnot, and they have an NFL caliber receiver in Jimmy Horn Jr., who I think will definitely be drafted pretty high next year, but when we look at it, the offensive line has to do a better job. They have to do a better job, and Shedeur has to do a better job. You cannot point the finger at your offensive line and your offense and just say, well, Nebraska got this, and this, and well, what about me? That's not how you do it. That's not how you're supposed to answer that type of question. You should have just said, oh, okay, well, we just gotta, we just have to look at the tape, make some adjustments, and just move forward, right? Compared to pointing the finger and blaming players based off of what they did and what they didn't do. That's not how you win. That's not how you do it, okay? Because honestly speaking here, when I looked at the Colorado State game, that pocket was collapsing very quickly. If Colorado to be a team that everyone else is going to have to worry about, you have to start running the ball more. You have to start mixing up your plays, because I do feel like their play calling is a little bit stagnant and reserved, and start rolling out. Shador is athletic enough and fast enough where he can roll out and he can, get a first down if he needs to, compared to just continuing to drop back 30 and 40, times a game. That's not going to win you. That's not going to win you games. That's not. Use them in a creative way. That is the only way that you're going to be able to win. And if you can't use them in a creative way, I don't know what to tell you. You have to use any and every option, okay? Run the ball. When you run the ball, you chew the clock, you beat up on the defense. Okay, cool. Roll out. You give a little bit of creativity. Everybody is able to get open and create a play, because guess what? Everyone knows that Shador's first option is going to be who? Travis Hunter. And if it's not Travis Hunter, then it's Jimmy Horn, or vice versa, right? That's just what it is. Now, when we look at on the defensive side definitely has to do more. That defensive line, they're not getting through. They're not stopping the run. And teams realize that. Teams realize that they can run on Colorado, because why? Their defensive line isn't doing anything. They're not stopping them, and it shows. The pass rushers, they have to be able to create more pressure on the quarterback. I'm not saying they have to play like Khalil Mack and TJ Watt and Myles Garrett or any of those guys, but you have to be able to get after the quarterback. You have to put pressure on him. If you don't put pressure on him, he's going to get comfortable, and then he's going to cook. And you do not want that. I promise you do not want that. I mean, granted, yes, they did beat Colorado State, but still, I feel like a lot of times Dion cashes checks that the team can't cash. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times you'll see the hype videos and, you see what was going on in practice and whatnot, and you're thinking, oh, okay, they're going in the right direction. But when it comes to Saturday or Friday or whenever they play, they're like a deer in headlights. What's going on? They running the ball? What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. No, man, that's not how this thing works. Because I'm telling you right now, if you go up against a Georgia, if you go up against a Michigan, if you go up against a Texas, if you go up against any of those teams, 9 times out of 10, one, they're going to run the ball at some point, and they're going to run it down your throat. That's one. Two, they're going to mix up their play calling. They're going to do the quarterback is probably going to roll out a few times. They're going to do some play action. They're going to do some RPO. They're going to do a variety of different things. You have to change it. You have to change the play calling. You have to control the clock, because if you can't control the clock, you're not going to win. Okay. And if I'm Dion, you have to start targeting defensive linemen and pass rushers. You have to start going after them more, bro. You're going to have to, because why? That is where your money is going to be made. That defensive line needs to be bolstered up. I don't care if you could have Warren Sapp, Mean Joe Green, Deacon Jones, Reggie, not Reggie White. Jesus, no, not him. John Randall and whomever to be your coaches. The fact of the matter is the defensive line needs some talent on there. They need some dogs on there, because if not, guess what? Everyone's just going to continue to run up the middle, because why? Your defensive line can't stop it. And it shows. It shows every single time. They can't stop the run. They can't create pressure, let alone get through and try to sack the quarterback. The quarterback and I wouldn't be surprised to be like, man, I'm not even worried about this defensive line. This defensive line can't even touch me with a 10-foot pole, even if they wanted to. Even if they got through the line, still won't matter. They're still not going to touch me. That's probably the mindset that they have. And the team just has to do better. The expectations are high for them. They have to meet those expectations. They have to meet those standards, because if you don't, the pressure is going to be on Dion, and you do not want that. I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like, wow, 54 minutes. Wow, we're almost at an hour. That is crazy. If you guys like what you guys are listening to, please leave a 5-star review, okay? To all my people, okay? To all my fellow junkies out there, my fellow future junkies, you guys can listen to this podcast on anywhere that you listen to podcasts on, whether that be RSS feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Okay, just type in Football Junkies Pod. I think it's just Football Junkies. I think it's either Football Junkies or Football Junkies Pod. One of the two. Is it Football Junkies? I think it's Football Junkies. I think it's definitely Football Junkies. Don't quote me. Don't quote me that. No, it's Football Junkies Podcast. That's what it is. Thank you. Football Junkies Podcast. Okay, Football Junkies Podcast. Now, to my YouTube people, like, share, subscribe, turn on that notification bell on. Leave a comment down below. Who is your favorite college football team? Okay, what do you think about your college football team? All right, let me know your views and your thoughts about that, okay? Now, I'm drawing a blank here. YouTube, Football Junkies Pod. Football Junkies Pod. Now, to my Instagram people, Football_Junkies Pod. Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? Same thing with my TikTok people. TikTok people, you guys have been showing out, okay? You guys have been doing significant numbers, okay? And you know, I'm definitely going to try to focus on, you know, doing some strictly YouTube content, as well as some strictly TikTok content as well. So a lot of moving pieces. Stay tuned for those. That will be coming soon, but not like within the next few weeks or whatever. Who knows? Who knows? But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I'm a little bit rusty. It's been a while, but guess what? We're back into the swing of things. All right, stay tuned. There's going to be more episodes coming out this week. Probably not as many bag alerts. We're probably going to be more in-depth analysis about the various games that have happened this past weekend, both college football and regular football as well. Give some hot takes and drop some truth bombs and whatnot. So as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Football Junkies Podcast. I love you guys. Peace and love. I'm out.